All right, good morning. Welcome to House of Champions. Use your friends, dropping your comments and questions in the chat, and make sure you hammer the like and subscribe buttons as we enjoy a watch along together for the UEFA Champions League draw and also the Europa League draw. Joining us in the House of Champions today throughout the morning, throughout the day, wherever you're watching, will be Nigel Real Coker, Michael Hood, Jonathan Johnson, James Benj, and Fabrizio Romano. But in the House of Champions today is good morning to you, Nigel Real Coker, and there's James Benj. Should I say good morning to you? It's still morning over there, right?
Yeah.
Bloody afternoon.
I've been up all
the
morning.
Afternoon shout. Give me the morning shout. Afternoon, James. Morning, Ian.
Nigel, have you ever been up this early before?
Yeah, I have, mate. I've got 3 kids, mate.
Yeah.
I've allegedly got 3 kids.
This is probably a lion for you, actually.
Something unique, something different today with the watch along. We have tried it before, but we're going to be here for the whole thing today, which is going to be interesting for all of us. So you'll see some of our personalities popping in and popping out of the House of Champions today as we go through the draw and dissect it for you. So pretty excited for that. I should be here for the majority of it. But guys, let's get into it. The teams qualified for the Champions League. The draw is about to take place right now. Chelsea, Benfica, Milan, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, Inter, Real Madrid, and Napoli. And I guess before we get anywhere near to the first ball being drawn here, when you look at this group, James, is there a team that you would want to play, sort of the weaker link, the one that pretty much every team is hoping to play in this draw?
The Milan teams for me. I mean, I've already forgotten everything that happened in that whole Inter Milan Porto. So, I mean, you could tell me they beat Galatasaray, and I'd believe you. That was pretty forgettable. Milan defended quite well against a pretty ordinary Spurs team, but looked like they would need 20 chances to score 1 goal. Chelsea are maybe the other one, but they do feel like they're the ones that could take a decent step forward over the international break, and might just have a bit more momentum on their side and nothing else to play for. So yeah, I'd be looking at those Milan teams. I guess I know on our pod we do love Benfica, but we do have to probably say that they are untested against the very best. But yeah, no, I mean, give me a Milan team and I'm happy. I have to say, God, I'm not going to be welcome there, am I?
Huh?
I'm not welcome in Milan no more, am I?
Do you know what, Ian? I'm seriously, I'm listening to James, and I'm just like, this is why when it comes to, and I'm not just blowing smoke up James's, you know what. But when you travel the world a bit and you watch football and you consume it and you listen to media people, personalities like James and like JJ, they're real football journalists. They know the game, they watch the game. They're not just journalists doing football and doing everything. They live it. So when you listen to them, they actually know what they're talking about compared to other places where you go and you see these so-called football journalists and some of the stuff that comes out their mouth, you think what game are you watching? But I agree with James. I really do. I think the Milan teams will be the ones that people want because Inter Milan just about scraped through Porto. And we watched that game, and the last 2 minutes with Porto hitting the post and the bar in the space of 10 seconds, it literally was just a siege. They just dug in and that was it. I still think Chelsea are a team that can be beaten. Scoring goals for them is a big problem. And you look at defensively, all these other teams that's still in the competition, it's going to be hard for Chelsea to score goals. And defensively, without the experience of Silva, I think he's a big miss in the back. I think Fofana's still learning the game. He's come in still vulnerable, and I still feel that the Chelsea are finding their groove. So I think any of these other teams there wouldn't actually mind being put up against Chelsea as well. So I agree with James. I think the Milan teams first, then Chelsea.
Do you agree with that, though, James? Though, obviously, working closer around the London teams, you get to see them pretty much day in and day out. Do you agree with that, that Chelsea would be one that maybe would be a favourable draw?
I mean, yeah, no, I do, actually. I don't think there's any team there that, ideally, I'd really love it if they could parachute Shrewsbury Town into the last 8 if I'm Man City. I'd be like, let's do that, see how that suits us. But I think the thing with... So the interesting thing with Chelsea is, I mean, in the back of my mind, I can't shake the memories of that rubbish attacking team that Thomas Tuchel took over that won the Champions League because their defence was brilliant. And they have been really good. With Potter, they use possession as a defensive tool. They will not attack until they're... And that's why their attack is pretty poor at the moment. That can be... I don't know what you guys think. I generally like when I'm thinking what wins the Champions League, I tend to fall down on the side of like you've got to have a really strong defense. I'm not sure Real Madrid did until the final, but obviously we all remember Chelsea were, champions off the back of defending and defending alone, really. So that's my thing that makes me wonder if they could. But
I think, James, but you got to look at the
I
other
know
teams.
I'm stretching it.
No, but you got to look at the other teams, the likes of Bayern Munich, Man City, Real Madrid, even Benfica and Napoli, the attacking flair and power that they have, the players that they've got, the difference makers. And remember, Silva's not there no more. Silva is the big glue that kept them together, just like Pepe would have been the glue that kept Porto together, but obviously he didn't play. You look at Rudiger going to Real Madrid, the influence he's having on Real Madrid now. What's his name? The Dutch centre back at Bayern Munich, the influence he's having. De Ligt, how much of a better player he's become. You look at Kim at Napoli. Chelsea don't really have that yet. They've just thrown a lot of people in there and they're still finding their groove. And under Thomas Tuchel, that was Thomas Tuchel's team. This is Graham Potter now, who's working with players that he's been forced to work with. So it's a different thing. And I think scoring goals for them is one of the big problems as well. Scoring goals is one of the massive problems for Chelsea.
While we're talking on defending, though, Ian, my question for you would be, Bayern just conceded 3 against Augsburg, but you always feel like they could score 5 in any game. But do you look at that and think, in the Champions League, they have just that thing? I know what we're going to say here, that there is something wrong at Bayern. But is part of that it's just like they could just concede 3 goals in 10 minutes and that changes the tie? I definitely see that happening if they ever draw Real Madrid.
Yeah, listen, I'm no mug. I'm still sensing that Bayern Munich are not the Bayern Munich of past, but I am obviously very impressed with what they've done in the Champions League. Obviously, going forward, I still believe that striker is missing, even though Choupo-Moting has done a great job scoring goals and he's been rewarded with a nice new contract. There's no doubt that Bayern will drop a ton of money, certainly nowhere near 100 million on a striker, but they will get a striker. So that's their main targets right now. But defensively, it's a fantastic question, James, because realistically, if you're a betting man like I am, I don't mind putting a wager on a game. I wait for Bayern Munich to go a goal down. And it happens a lot of the time. They normally like to concede that first goal and then pump someone 3-1, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3. They don't necessarily have to really worry much about their defensive frailties in the Bundesliga because they know they're so deadly going forward. And in the Champions League, it's worked out for them as well. And actually, in many ways, in the Champions League, they've defended a lot better than they have done domestically. It's been pretty impressive at times. But I still feel like they're trying to figure out who goes where, which is the piece that fits there. De Ligt's performance against PSG was outstanding. It was a great performance. The clearance off the line. I love the hurrah right after it. But you've still got a lot to come from, obviously. Upamecano is a great example. What a talented player he is. But I don't think we've seen the best of him in a Bayern Munich jersey. And certainly the fullbacks, they still need to be a bit more cohesive defensively with their centre-backs, whether it's a 3 at the back or if it's 2 centre-backs you're playing with, because Davies is not a natural left-back. He has become one of the best left-backs, if not the best left-back in the world, but he's an offensive player. Defensively, still got room to improve. And on the right-hand side, they've had a lot of issues with Pavard, whoever plays there on the right-hand side. So go ahead, Nigel, what's your comment there?
I'm just going to have a Will Smith moment to Ian Joy, please. Keep Bayern Munich's name out your effing mouth, all right? Keep Bayern Munich's name out. You of all people should never speak of Bayern Munich. That's what I have to say.
Why not? Why not? I thought you were going to slap me there if you were talking about Will Smith.
No, but honestly, though, I mean, listen, we've had this conversation before, and I've got my opinion, James, and Ian probably doesn't agree with it, but I honestly see, when I look at Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, I'm telling you now that when you look at these teams in Champions League, they're a different monster.
Over City? Over Man City?
Over Man City, because Bayern Munich and Real Madrid have a big history in this competition of winning this competition and wanting to dominate this competition. Man City is still trying to win their first ever Champions League, so it's a different goal that they're trying to achieve. But for me, I feel that Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, every season at those clubs, their priority is told Champions League. They've both won more domestic league titles in their own domestic league than any other club. So for them, for the fans, it's nothing new to win a league title. Yes, it's nice, but let's be real. The golden goose is the Champions League. It's the one that puts you even bigger on the world stage. Huh?
Not for Bayern, no, Nigel. Not for Bayern, no. If they don't win domestically, it's a bit of a different feeling you have at Bayern Munich. If they win the Champions League, it's like an added bonus for them. But that's not always their main priority. Of course, they want to compete, but they are realistic, Bayern Munich.
But in recent years, would you not say, when you look at the world football and how it is now, that
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Champions League is the main priority in recent years? That's just
that they take the Bundesliga for granted as well.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe that's a good point. Yeah, maybe they do. Maybe they just guaranteed pretty much every year to win it because there isn't that challenger right now, you know?
I want Benfica, Chelsea. By the way. Just by the way, I just want to put that head on there.
All right, we're just about to get the draw underway, watching the UEFA Champions League draw with the House of Champions boys. We've got James Benge and Nigel Rio Coker in the house. Big shout out to everybody who's already joined us. Vic's already up and ready to go. He's waiting for his Chelsea to get drawn here. He's shouting that Kante is back and avoid Chelsea. You have been warned.
Kante could be, if he's like 80% of the player he has been, I hadn't even thought of that, because you almost like could just forget that he plays for Chelsea.
He's not going to go in at this stage, though. I can't see Graham Potter throwing him in at this stage.
Anyone could.
I can't see it, James. He's been out for so long, and you're talking about this competition out. Like, he needs to get games to get fit. Like, that would be unfair on Kante.
Real quickly on Chelsea, while Vic's in the room as well, we might as well touch upon the fact that Graham Potter's having more success, James, in the Champions League than he is having domestically with Chelsea. Why do you think that is?
Just some bad luck, some bad finishing luck in the Premier League. I actually think the results got better, or the performances got better a while ago. The results are lagging a bit behind. Like, they've got better to the level where you would say that Chelsea are like the 5th or 6th best team in England. Well, Brighton. I mean, it's taking time. We've
got one out the hat, James. We've got one out the hat.
You're ahead of me. I'm not used to being ahead on these. You're going to need
Real
to tell
Madrid
me what's
behind.
Real Madrid are the first team out of the hat. Real Madrid right here.
Real Madrid.
Here we got a comment from Ghetto. He's saying, as a Benfica hardcore fan, I hope we get Inter Milan or Milan. Then Chelsea should get the one we didn't get, because both teams can go through and possibly meet at the semifinals. That would be a great shout. Chelsea right there. Oh,
Chelsea,
my
Real
word.
Madrid.
Real Madrid. Chelsea.
Bye, Vic. Vic, how confident are you now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Vinicius Jr. versus who? Who are you going to put?
Vinicius. Well, if anyone's going to defend Vinicius Jr., I wouldn't mind Reece James doing it. But
what about Benzema? Yeah, all right. Come on, listen. Yeah. I find it very hard.
Inter Milan,
big difference maker there.
Inter Benfica, is that? Inter Benfica.
You're ahead of us, so go for us. You're going to have to just update us. Inter Benfica.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, that's a great draw for Benfica.
Benfica through.
It just, I feel like it continues this thing where we don't quite know how good Benfica are. Like, I've done my power rankings already, and I've got to change them around, but I had them like 5th. They might even go up, because this means like we're going to get a couple of big teams.
Listen, James, Inter Milan just happy. Porto. Benfica are a better team than Porto, in my opinion. Benfica will beat Inter Milan.
Ghetto is very happy right here now. He said, Benfica against Inter. Yes. Sounds like he's very happy. Vic's happy with the draw as well. He said, let's go. We've done it before. Good shout there.
Well, I'll tell you who's not happy. Pep Guardiola.
Man City buy him.
Yeah.
Oh. Is it?
Oh.
Wow.
I called it. I said Man City buy him. Did I not call it, Ian? Remember we was having that discussion?
You did.
Man City buy him.
So that leaves us with Napoli. Milan. I mean, that's Napoli are very happy.
Napoli are very happy, but that's going to be fire in Italy.
I mean, realistically, Napoli have to be very happy with that draw, right?
You've got a guaranteed semi-finalist from Serie A. You do have to say that as much as Inter, Benfica will be happy with Inter, like, Inter won't be complaining about Benfica either. Like, they've got an outside chance.
They'll play, James, I'll tell you this now. Inter Milan will play the same exact tactic against Porto. They'll sit deep, be defensive, and try and play counter-attacking football. Whether Lukaku starts or not is going to be the other thing. I think probably they'll do the same thing against Porto. They'll bring Lukaku on 70 minutes into the game and use him. But I just feel Benfica, for me, a bit more conniving and have better individuals in that final third, and they're a bit more ruthless in front of goal. Let's not forget they've got one of the top strikers in European football. I feel Benfica can get it done.
All right, just a quick update to everybody out there who's just joining us. Please make sure you let us know in the comments if your team has just been drawn. You are watching House of Champions. We are discussing the Champions League quarterfinal draw. And here it is for you. Real Madrid against Chelsea, Inter Milan against Benfica, Manchester City against Bayern Munich, and Milan against Napoli. Wow. Let's discuss.
To draw the semi-finals as well, I should say, before we do dive into the discussion. So
Keep
the
us,
winners of
keep us
Milan
posted, James.
Napoli will play. I'm just waiting for this to load up.
No, it's
the
fine.
winners of Milan Napoli will play the winners of Benfica versus Inter Milan. So, I mean, suddenly, like this is
Napoli
dream draw territory for Napoli.
Yep.
That is
Make the final.
Yeah,
but it's the two teams that I picked as a dark horse that I wanted either Napoli or Benfica to win it.
Oh no! Like I've got to say, our viewer numbers. If we get a Napoli Benfica semi-final, oh good God!
I want one of them to win it.
Producer Des will be swimming in YouTube analytics. He'll be over the moon.
But when you
that means City Bayern will play the winner of Real Madrid Chelsea.
Wow,
big stretch. Honestly, I think for a neutral fan, how do you guys find that? I think that's great because people always moan about the Champions League. It's the same old faces, the same old things. At least you're getting these historic clubs facing each other and having to earn that, and then you got the breath of fresh airs, the Napoli and the Benfica having a great chance to make the final. I think if one of those two do make the final, it could be a surprise as well, regardless of who makes it on the other side. Those teams are capable of winning this competition. They're not going to
think about it, though,
90 minutes.
Think about it, though. I mean, if you look at that, like as James just pointed out there, you've got Milan, Napoli, then Benfica against Inter. And one of those four is going to make it to the final. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's going to be interesting.
Napoli, it might be a rubbish final.
I mean,
it has to be a Real Madrid Napoli. I think that will be a final. Or Real Madrid Benfica, that will be a final, in my opinion.
So
listen. What do you think, James, now? Because you know, Pep's probably over-analysing how he's going to be Bayern Munich right now. And is Cancelo going to be allowed to play or not?
He will be. He would be eligible. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair as well, Nagelsmann will do the exact same. I don't know how on earth, what formations we're going to have here is going to be fascinating. Back sevens,
goalkeeper playing sweeper, coming off the box, pinging balls around.
I mean, Edison and Neuer, well, it's not Neuer, is it? Sommer are going to be getting more touches in the final third than they are in their own penalty area. So I have a question for you, because when I jump off here in a minute, I have to do this. I have to update my power rankings. Who now is the favourite for the Champions League, given that draw? Because I think that draw has actually changed a lot, and I think it's Napoli.
I agree. Oh, I don't agree.
I would say for me, like again, as much as I would say my favorites is going to be Napoli and Real Madrid. Real Madrid. You can't rule Real Madrid out. I'm sorry. Napoli and Real Madrid. I'm telling you.
Real Madrid got the favorable draw against Chelsea. So because that was one of your ones to draw there. So Real Madrid will be happy with that, Nigel.
Real Madrid will be buzzing with that draw. They will be buzzing with that draw.
Semi-final, they've got City or Bayern Munich. Who would they rather face there?
I think they would rather face City.
Yeah.
Real Madrid would rather face City in that one. But
just
to make the final, I would say Napoli definitely. Yeah, Napoli, I've got the favorite draw. If all their players stay healthy and fit. Only if all of them stay healthy and fit.
Wow. I mean, what about for Manchester City here, James? Because you laughed as soon as it was drawn, but Manchester City against Bayern Munich. And then you got to beat Real Madrid or Chelsea in the semis.
It sort of feels like this perfect, I mean, let's be honest, it's probably Real Madrid, isn't it? It feels like this perfect set of circumstances to like prey on all of City's mental insecurities. I think they have the best squad there, but like it's going back to what Nigel said, there is something about the Champions League that until you win it, and I guess maybe you guys can tell me about this from other competitions as well, like if you're not in that trophy-winning dressing room, I don't know why it's different for the Champions League, except that there clearly is something, isn't there? When you concede 2 goals in the last 10 seconds or whatever it was against Madrid, when you just go mad against Lyon, there's something about this City team and the Champions League that feels like nothing's ever quite going to break their way, or they'll always find a way to make it harder for themselves. And this time, the draw has found a way to make it so much harder. I still think, like, if you took everything out of it, all the mental issues, all that, I think City could beat both those teams, and I'd make them favourites going into ties against any one of the other three. But I don't fancy them mentally to do it, and that's so strange to say because they're clearly a strong team.
I've got a few opinions on that. I don't know if we've got time, but I've got a few things that kind of tinker my brain when it comes to that situation. We've got time, or we got to go break?
No, go right now.
No, it's just a quick one, James. I think the thing when I look at City for me is, again, they've never won it. Their priority for fans when all this money coming was winning the Premier League title. They've won the Premier League title now a few times. So now they've got bored. So now from the old girlfriend that they've got, they want to get a new girlfriend, upgrade their girlfriend. The Champions League is the golden goose. That is the reality of it. And I think it's because of what the Champions League has become with the money and the marketing and everything that's come behind it and the history of all the clubs and how it's grown to be one of the most powerful footballing competitions in the world next to the World Cup, really and truly. People care more about the Champions League than the World Club competition. But I think one of the hardest things you've got is because of Manchester City being in the Premier League, winning the Premier League with what comes with the Premier League, it's the motivation factor of it. I think that a lot of these players at City are basically full up, and it's hard to motivate these players to really want to win the Champions League with all the luxuries that they have at Manchester City. So I think the club has a part to play with it. When you compare it to other European clubs, they're not living the luxury lifestyle of the 1% of that Premier League club of Manchester City. So these players are a lot more motivated, in my opinion, to want to win the Champions League than you can ever get Manchester City. Manchester City still is a new project, whichever way we look at it. Like, some people don't even know that Manchester City's been through all the different divisions in English football. And this whole Premier League thing is new money, and they're still finding their feet. They're starting the foundations to implement an institution like Real Madrid, but that's a long way away. So I think for me, it's kind of more so the motivation factor plays a big part, in my opinion.
James, anything else?
I wholeheartedly agree entirely. I think there is, and it is not about the quality of the players. No. That is a squad that, in talent terms, could have done what Real Madrid did in the 2010s, could have done what Ajax and Bayern Munich, they could be, and they have been like the best team in Europe in terms of overall performance, in terms of consistently getting to the Champions League latter stages over the last 5 years. But it doesn't actually really matter for all that much if you don't win the title, does it? No. And there is, I think, almost every year, we say the same things about PSG. It's almost like every single year, the weight of it becomes just a bit too heavy for them. So it's hard to see this being the year.
James,
which probably means it will be.
Just one more thing I want to add to that as well, right? And we talk about the Premier League and all these different leagues. The reality of it is, the Premier League is seen with such envy from other leagues in Europe. They do not like the Premier League. They hate Premier League clubs' arrogance, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. And the only point I want to make to that is, you look at the great game we saw yesterday with Arsenal and Sporting. Did you see how the Sporting players celebrated after that, and the fans, of what it meant to beat a Premier League team like Arsenal? Like, it is more than just a game when some of these big European sides play Premier League sides. It's a kind of a statement of, yes, you guys are the best marketed league in the world, but you're not the best league in the world. We can compete with you. We've got more hungry players and more desire. The celebrations alone lets you know how much intensity is put when these sides play English teams.
What it means to them. Yeah, it really is incredible.
And that's what I'm saying.
Oscar jumped in with a comment backing you up there, Nigel. He said, finally, it's a perfect draw that helps out the little guys, even if they just become, sacrificial lambs in the final. I mean, I don't want that, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because I can't imagine, if you think what could happen in this run now, you could possibly see Napoli beat Milan. You could see Benfica beat Inter, right? I'm just putting it out there. Benfica Napoli would be a hell of a semi-final. Could you imagine watching that? I mean, nothing against Inter or Milan, but that would probably be the semi-final that I would like to watch most on that side there. And then I wouldn't fancy going up against either Napoli or Benfica in the final because you're automatically a favourite going into that final.
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
That's 90 minutes for them too? Nah, you want
2 legs.
Yeah.
2 legs you give.
All right.
You think your quality pays off, but 90 minutes, the emotion of that, nah.
We can talk for hours and hours about this, which we will do today because it is a special edition. But thanks for joining us, as always, everybody out there. That was the Champions League draw. Just a reminder to everybody out there, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Inter versus Benfica, Manchester City, Bayern, Milan against Napoli. We're going to take a quick break. More to come on the other side as we look ahead to the Europa League draw, and a few new faces will be joining us.
Absolutely magisterial here.
Artilharia do Campeonato Brasileiro. Colpisce ancora. Golazo.
Well, don't miss a second of the action from the greatest club competition on earth. That is, of course, the Champions League. Follow the biggest stars from the world of soccer like Sadio Mane, Karim Benzema, Victor Osimhen, and Erling Haaland as they try to clinch the most prestigious prize in the game. Stream every match from the Champions League and Europa League live only on Paramount Plus. Try a 1 month for free with the promo code ADVANCE. Welcome into the House of Champions and a very good morning to Jonathan Johnson and Michael Hood. How we doing? Golf clap, Nigel? Golf clap for the boys there? Golf clap? No? I'm
royalty. I do the royal wave. Okay?
You took your criticism to heart there. Look at him. He looks like he's gone to a barber. He's had a shave. He's done a workout. He's fresh. JJ, what's up?
Man, you gotta be looking good. Gotta mac out when it comes to the Champions League draw. So went full budget. Went and got a trim just half an hour before the draw, and delighted that it's gone down well with the crew.
Michael Hood, you look very fresh this morning as always do, but it looks like you're at a strip club or something, and someone's about to appear from that curtain behind you. So what's going on with you, man?
Yeah, I'm here with
look at the envy in Nigel's eyes after you said that.
Well, Nigel's picking up where he left off with the Tiger Woods in Vegas story, but I'm not in Vegas. I am in Austin doing some stuff with Austin FC. March Madness is in the air, so I have a basketball shirt, but I have my football brain with me.
Yeah, we don't watch netball at all. None of us really do. So keep your netball to yourself. All right. We're getting ready for the Europa League draw. It's about to start. Just a reminder to everybody out there, the teams that are available in the quarterfinals for that draw: Feyenoord, Juventus, Bayer Leverkusen, Manchester United, Roma, Sevilla, Sporting Lisbon, and Union. JJ, help me out here. Union.
Saint-Gilloise.
Just rolls.
There's something stuck in your throat, JJ.
Saint-Cressant.
I think JJ has something stuck in his throat. He's from South London.
JJ, before we go any further and obviously make more fun about that name, can we just discuss what happened to Arsenal in the Europa League getting knocked out by Sporting? I mean, what a fantastic game that was, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that kind of drama, obviously it's why we love, these competitions when there's such high stakes. And, I think this kind of thing also adds value to the Europa League because quite often when you've got teams that have come down from the Champions League, they'll kind of disrespect it a little bit. Whereas there are other clubs that, would kill to be in that sort of situation with a potential shot at a title like that. And I think, as Nigel said just before the break, you saw what it meant, to those Sporting players to manage to pull off that kind of feat, and I think it's a huge achievement. Obviously not going to be great to watch back for Ramsdale after getting lobbed from miles out, Naeem-esque. I don't know, something about Arsenal playing in Europe and those kind of things happening to their goalkeepers. But no, it was, I think it's one of those storylines that makes the Europa League so interesting. And to be honest, I feel it's more interesting than ever this season when you look at some of the massive names that are now in that draw before they come out of the hat later today, to have the Uniteds, to have the Juves. In fact, I wrote a piece last night after United booked their place in the quarterfinals. I mean, a lot's been made about the fact that they got spanked 7-0, a couple of days ago by Liverpool. But the fact is, United are still alive for potentially 3 titles this season. They got the Europa League and the FA Cup that they're still playing for. Obviously, the Carabao Cup is in the bag, which I know is music to Mike Lahoud's ears.
Are you saying they're out of the Premier League race? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I wasn't really the one who was ever putting them into the Premier League title race, to be fair.
Michael, I feel like that's a dig at you right there. Come on.
Yeah, you know, I was not the one. I think James Benz was trying to reel me in to the discussion. I kept my hopes realistic, and now they're becoming a bit more realized with something even bigger. The Europa League, Manchester United doing the business against a Real Betis side, JJ's Real Betis side, if you see in the background, that didn't show up, that haven't really shown up in the second part of the season. But hey, a brother can dream, man. Next round, bring it on.
What would be the tie that you'd want to avoid, Mike, if you're a Manchester United fan out there?
Absolutely, Juventus. I think that is the sort of team with that back three, given their defensive pedigree this season, the turnaround. Juventus.
Juventus versus who?
Manchester United.
Why are you trying to avoid Roma? You are such a United fan. You are such a United fan. Everyone wants to see United Roma. Jose Mourinho coming back with his that's what everyone wants to see.
Give me that later on. Give me that as a final. I want Jose to suffer in a final. I want that.
You don't want another tattoo of his latest European conquest. Maybe he's working.
No, I do want another tattoo that's coming for him. A teardrop coming down over one of those trophies if United get him in the final.
I'll tell you what, I loved what Mourinho did the other day. I don't know if you guys saw it on Instagram. Obviously, he's making a bit of a reputation for himself, but he does a bit of advertising for the watches and some jewelry. And in protest against the suspension that he got domestically, he did that cross-armed pose and tried to pass it off as advertising his watch and his jewelry, which I thought was great. So, as long as Mourinho's midlife crisis continues and he gets another European title at United's expense, I would love to see those scenes.
Love it.
Nigel, come on. Jump in, Nigel. Let us know what would be the best tie for you here. Certainly the most enjoyable tie to watch if you look at the final eight.
Most enjoyable tie to watch.
I've got one.
I wouldn't mind seeing Sporting versus United. As much as I would love a United Roma because of the story behind it, but I think Manchester United versus Sporting would be a great tie.
Mike?
I'm going to go off the beaten path. I'm really, really impressed with Union and what they did against Union of Germany. A lot of talented young players there. I think them versus Leverkusen, that could be a goal fest. Obviously, you have your big names and your marquee matchups, but that could be one of the dark horse ties of the remaining competition in terms of goals and entertainment.
You know what? I feel that we're all sleeping on the serial winners of the Europa League, Sevilla. I know that they're having a horrible season domestically, but still, for them to be in there at this kind of stage, I mean, I don't think you can completely write them off. I mean, their season's been a bit of a car crash, but they could still potentially win. The Europa League, could win the Europa League and get relegated in La Liga. That would be pretty crazy.
They're not the same Sevilla team.
No, they're not. Thank you for saying that, Nigel. I watched both legs of the tie against Fenerbahce.
They were lucky.
Very fortunate. Fenerbahce had them dead to rights in the first leg. And Sevilla, just things ricocheting off of them, random goal scores. But hey, them's the breaks when you're doing the things you need to do in cup competition.
Yeah, but their name's on the cup, 5 times, something like that.
Yeah, but there is a different sort of fear factor around Sevilla in the past that I don't think is there now.
No,
before we do go to a quick break, boys, I really want to get your opinion also on the Champions League draw that just took place there. Michael, I'll start with you. Real Madrid, Chelsea, Inter, Benfica, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, Milan against Napoli. And the way it's lined up here, it would be Milan, Napoli versus Benfica, Inter in the semi-final. City, Bayern, Real Madrid, Chelsea on the other bracket there. So, Mike, your thoughts overall?
Congratulations to Napoli for booking their places potentially in the final. I think it's a very favorable draw. I think I heard a bunch of you on here talking about that, but shout out to Vic, man. Vic, you have now taken up the Drake curse when it comes to the pod in terms of Champions League draw. Cannot wait to see that Chelsea Madrid tie. I think advantage Real Madrid. But if Chelsea get this win across this tie, they become one of the most dangerous teams to play against.
JJ, your thoughts on the draw?
I mean, I think it's I think it's an exciting draw. I think there are some sexy ties. I do think that there's some favourable, scenarios as well. I think it's great for Italian football, obviously, to have one all-Italian tie, which guarantees at least one Italian team in the semi. Potentially an all-Italian semi, given that Inter have drawn Benfica, but I would have to say that I probably favour Benfica over them in that. But looking at the other potential matchups, it's great. Having Bayern going up against City, and there's so much to look forward to in this in this draw.
Michael, real quickly, go ahead, buddy.
Why did you do it?
Do what?
Why did you give Michael a platform to give praise to Napoli? You know what's going to happen now. We have to get a priest to come and pray that Michael doesn't put any kind of negativity or dark cloud around Napoli. Whoever Michael backs comes crashing down. So now I feel so depressed because you let Michael praise Napoli now. So Napoli now could pretty much go out of this competition because of Mike. He's got the Kim K curse, as Vic says, because we saw that happen to Arsenal yesterday.
Hey, in the chat, I said what I had to say in that. I'll just leave it at that.
Real quickly, we do have Mr. Safayet Raman Abir. He said, we, the Rossoneri AC Milan, have the toughest of challenges this year in the Champions League draw. Let's go, Rafael Leao. Right there. But who did get the toughest draw there, Mike? When you look at who got the brunt end of the stick, I know who Nigel's going for, but who got the toughest road?
Manchester City. I think they would have loved to be on the other side. I think Pep Guardiola.
Really, Man City?
Yeah, they're going to have to earn.
Not Chelsea?
Well, Chelsea as well, but I think Manchester City, they are one of the favorites, and they would have loved to be on the other side. They're going to have to earn every ounce of that favorite tag. Erling Haaland, he's going back to Germany against a team that he loves scoring against. So that's a positive. Kevin De Bruyne going back to a league that he starred in. Ilkay Gundogan. So some familiar faces going up against the Bayern side. But this is a City team that there's already been some cracks in the pavement. If there's continued cracks in the pavement, they will get exposed.
Vic is jumping in the comments here and he says, Mike, don't you worry. We will need to shock the world to win it. JJ, for Chelsea, real quickly, just your thoughts overall on Chelsea. Because, I mean, they have had some success in the Champions League. And listen, they just knocked out Borussia Dortmund, which was pretty impressive. They're playing better, as far as I'm concerned, in the Champions League that they are compared to domestically. But this is a tough ask for them to even get past Real Madrid, which is their competition, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just look at the way that Real bodied, Liverpool in the last round. I think it's it takes me back to the chat that we had just a couple of days ago when we were talking about how Real, are pretty much picking and choosing when they deliver their performances. Now it feels like this is a game that they will really be up for. The star men, your Benzemas, your Modric's, they will fancy putting in a performance over two legs against Chelsea. And yeah, Chelsea, they're starting to enjoy a bit of an uptick in form. So there, is cause for optimism a little bit, but equally, I'm not convinced enough yet, that form will improve to the level where they can potentially take a Real Madrid over two legs. Let's not forget as well that there are some limitations as well to Chelsea based on the players that they've registered for the squad. So if they continue to have the personnel issues that they've been having of late, that could also impact the tie as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't completely write Chelsea off, but equally, I would really expect Real Madrid to turn up at least in one of the two legs, as we saw against Liverpool. But if they can put in as polished a performance collectively over the two legs, for me, I think that Real should advance quite easily.
So, JJ, what you're saying is if Madrid just doesn't show up like Dortmund did in the second leg, then Chelsea will go through.
I mean, I'd say that Chelsea's chances are boosted by that. But no, for me, I struggle to see Real, putting in as much of a mediocre showing as we've seen from them domestically of late.
I'll just say this. Camavinga, Modric, Kroos, Tchouaméni. That's all I have to say in that midfield area.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
That's what I have to say.
Let me get to some of the comments coming in right now. Rafa saying, I would say that Bayern Munich got the toughest draw here. We also say, I will gladly write them off. Ed was jumping in about Chelsea. City will dominate against Bayern and face Fuchsia wide eyes. I don't know about that one. Ed, Cancelo and Zane will absolutely haunt Pep, which is really where Nigel, I saw you getting a bit excited about the comment that came in from Art Institute who said Cancelo, 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 which realistically, there's some great storylines behind that tie.
Fantastic storylines behind it. And we've seen it happen so many times in football. We see how Cancelo left and Pep and Cancelo, it was good. He just wanted more playing time. There's no hard feelings there. There's hard feelings there. I guarantee you. Cancelo right now will be licking the chops and he would want to put one over Pep Guardiola for sure. He would want to put one. And he is, for me, he was one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League when he was at Manchester City. I feel he's just improved Bayern Munich a hell of a lot more and made them a lot more stable. Anyone else can comment except Mr. Ian Joy, who thought Bayern wouldn't get out the group. So Ian's comments don't mean anything right now about Bayern.
I don't think getting past City. Here's a statistic here. This will be Pep Guardiola's first meeting with Bayern Munich since leaving the club. His only managerial games against them came in 2008-2009 Champions League quarterfinals when he knocked them out with Barcelona en route to lifting the trophy. Does he repeat that, Mike?
Has a great chance, but I think that this is a Bayern team. I put them number one in my power rankings for a reason. They are a team. They're not dependent on one player. They're getting healthy bodies. I think for the first time, minus Neuer, you're getting almost a fully fit team. Decisions to be made by Nagelsmann. I actually favor Bayern in this tie.
All right. JJ, real quickly before we let you get out of here, where can people follow what you've been writing about the draws going on? Where can people catch up, not only just on your social medias, but also on the website?
Yeah, best place on Twitter, obviously. So at JON_Legosip. There's a bunch of stuff in there. James and I are also manning the live blog. So definitely join us for the Europa League and the Europa Conference League later.
You see how he does that, Nigel, right? JJ comes in here, right? Not only does he know how to pronounce Union Saint-Gilloise correctly, his Twitter handle is not John Legosip, it's John Legosip.
He forgets he's a Brummie, mate. He really has forgotten
he's French he's French to the core, man. He's French to the core.
Nigel, you just need to drink a little bit more of that cognac and you'll get the same pronunciation.
All right, we're going to take another quick break, but when we do come back, we'll have Fabrizio Romano join us, and Jonathan Johnson, thank you very much, as always, for joining us right now. Boys, you stick around.
Welcome to the UEFA Europa League on Paramount Plus.
What a night!
Your home for more ultra-competitive, world-class soccer, where Europe's elite and soccer's Cinderellas pump out that one-of-a-kind white-knuckle excitement that grows with every cut, every cross, and each and every goal! The UEFA Europa League. Stream every match live exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Welcome to House of Champions, friends. Thank you so much for joining us today. The Champions League quarterfinals are completely set. Let me just ring them off for you right now. Real Madrid against Chelsea, Inter against Benfica, Manchester City against Bayern, Milan against Napoli. And wow. As we record this, the draw for the Europa League quarterfinals is about to take place. So we'll keep you in the loop as to what's happening there. I have the whole House of Champions gang. They're going to be joining us in and out as we go along here. We've already had James Bench and Jonathan Johnson join us. Make sure you go check them out on the social media platforms and also the CBS Sports website. They'll be offering their thoughts, as is Michael Hood, Nigel Reo-Coker. And guess what? Here he is. Golf clap for Fabrizio Romano.
Thank you.
Royalty way. Royalty way.
Welcome, Fab.
Thank you.
Fabrizio, I have already heard from the boys. The draw is set. The bracket is also set. What is your overall thoughts on the Champions League quarterfinal draw?
As an Italian guy, it's unbelievable, honestly. It's really unbelievable to see three Italian clubs on the same side of this Champions League quarterfinals and semifinals. I'm sure this Milan-Napoli game will be incredible, with an incredible atmosphere at San Siro, because, of course, we know how Napoli are performing at super level, but Champions League with Milan, we know how big is the link, is historical, and so I'm sure Milan will do something important against Napoli. It's not going to be an easy one for Napoli, but we know how good they are, how good are Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia. So fantastic moment for Italian football. I'm also curious to see Inter with Benfica, because it was tough with Porto, and Benfica are way better, in my opinion. So it's going to be a really difficult one for Inter, but at least it's open. And so to see 3 Italian clubs there with Inter playing Benfica and then Milan-Napoli is something special. Then I think we have to mention this incredible Manchester City-Bayern game, incredible for Joao Cancelo, as you mentioned before, incredible for Pep Guardiola, of course. It's going to be a super game, a really super game. I would say a final in the quarterfinals, because probably this was the expected final of this Champions League, and now we will see Man City and Bayern facing in the quarterfinals, and then Real Madrid-Chelsea. I'm curious too, because Real Madrid are always in control when it's Champions League, but Chelsea are a strange team this season, and we know they won the Champions League when things were strange with Di Matteo, with Thomas Tuchel, changing the manager during the season. So a really strange season, and so I'm sure it's going to be super exciting Champions League as always.
Fab, ciao, welcome. After kind of a barren spell in the UEFA Champions League, what would you attribute the renaissance that we've seen this season of Italian clubs and Italian football in this competition?
Yes, I think we have to give massive credits to Napoli, because I think what they are doing is really special. They were perfect on the market, as we always mention, with Kim, with Kvaratskhelia, and many other signings, but also kind of football they play, the energy. This is a modern team. This is a European team. For Inter and Milan, is a bit different. This is the feeling. They play different kind of football. They are still a step behind in the process, I would say, compared to Napoli, because they need maybe some more player in the next 1-2 years to be at that level, but at least they are there. So this is a positive news. And my expectation is for Napoli, honestly, to go through, because they have a fantastic team. But for Inter and Milan, the good news is to be there. The good news is to build on a difficult financial situation, because they were really rebuilding the squad, especially Milan, by signing players. I always love to mention what they did, for example, for the defense. I think the real point for Milan is the defense. Malik Chao, 6 million euros. Pierre Kalulu, free agent. Fikayo Tomori, 29 million euros. Mike Maignan, 15 million euros. So 50 million euros for 5 players. And this is something really special, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Inter have some experienced players, but I think Napoli are the big statement for Italian football in this moment. And this is why I see them as favorites of this side of the draw.
Everybody out there, you're watching House of Champions. It's Ian Joy alongside my co-host Michael Hood, Nigel Rio Coker, and we have the main man, Fabrizio Romano, in the house. We have a comment coming in from Tiny Keabetswe. He's asking about Lukaku. Let's talk about Lukaku, Fabrizio. What is the latest on his situation, and what does the future look like for Lukaku?
Yes, I saw many reports after Intersio Marotta, ahead of the Porto game. He said Lukaku will go back to Chelsea. I think what he wanted to say is the reality. So this is a straight loan. There is no buy option. So officially, Romelu Lukaku at the end of the season will go back to Chelsea. But Inter knows so well that they will have conversations with Chelsea to keep Romelu Lukaku. They will speak about the potential loan also for the next season. It also depends on the coach. As I already mentioned here, it depends on the coach, because he's not sure yet that Simone Inzaghi is going to be the coach for next season. He's still under contract, but it's something that has to be decided at the end of the season. Also, it depends on Chelsea, how much they want for Romelu Lukaku, because it's not just about the huge salary, but also about the loan fee. For example, last summer to sign Romelu Lukaku, it took around 9 million euros loan fee to Inter. So there are many points, but what Inter mean when they say Romelu Lukaku will go back is that it's a normal loan. There is no buy option, and then they will discuss at the end of the season. What I can mention is that, from what I understand, Chelsea are not planning with Romelu Lukaku for next season. So I see him leaving the club in any case. And I think that Romelu Lukaku really wants to stay at Inter. So he will push to stay at Inter in good conditions. So this is the expectation.
Fabrizio, now I'm a big Napoli fan this season in what I've seen football-wise. My question is this. With the amazing season that they have, if they win Serie A and obviously do well and get to the final in the Champions League, what's the chances of Napoli selling 2 of the most after players at their club in Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen? Will that happen if they lose both, or would you say they lose one?
I think they will try to keep at least one. It's not going to be easy, honestly, because when you have this kind of players with this kind of salary, because the point is the salary also. It's not just about the value of the player, but they don't have crazy salaries. And we know how top European clubs, maybe from Premier League or La Liga, they can offer crazy salaries to these players. So this is why it's not easy at all. But at the moment, Napoli are, I think, have been really perfect in the strategy, because not just of the signings, but how they are isolating the squad. In this moment, it's impossible to negotiate with Napoli, for any club, for any agent. They are not negotiating. They don't want to open talks with any club. So I think that it's going to be something really slow for Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia talks. It's going to be something for the summer, June, July, not March, not April, not May. This is the idea of Napoli. And it's also important to mention that the feeling now is that for Osimhen, there are many clubs already looking for a center striker. For example, Man United, Chelsea, and many others around Europe are looking for that kind of player. And so I think it's going to be really difficult to keep the player. For Kvaratskhelia, he's super appreciated around Europe, but many clubs already have that kind of player in their roster, in their team. For example, Chelsea invested on Mykhailo Mudryk. For example, Arsenal have Gabriel Martinelli extending the contract. For example, Real Madrid have Vinicius Jr. So it's not easy probably to invest that money when you already have a player in that place. This is why I think Osimhen is the most dangerous situation for Napoli.
Fab, question from the chat, and I love the talk about Italian football. We'll keep it on that. Question from the chat from Mir Safayette. She said, the future of Rafael Leao. Can you give us some updates on that? Paraphrasing for Mir Safayette there.
Yes, I know that they are worried, and this is normal because Milan and Leao side, both sides, already in November, in December, they were expecting to, they were prepared to sign a new deal, and then this new deal is never signed. This is the point. Every single time we hear Leao wants to stay, Milan want to extend the contract, but there is still no full agreement. Milan are waiting for Leao because Milan have made their proposal. It's a really important proposal for Italian football because it's more than 7 million euros salary per season net. And this is a really important salary, I would say, for Italian football at least. And so they're waiting for Leao to answer. They're still in negotiation. They hope to have a final answer before the Champions League quarterfinals. So April is the month where they hope to get things done. But again, it depends on the player. Milan did their best. Milan did a fantastic proposal. And so they're waiting for Rafa Leao. Let me remind that his contract is expiring in June 24. And so if they can find an agreement with Leao before the summer, I think we have to keep an eye on the player in the summer transfer window.
You're watching House of Champions, everybody. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment. If you've got a question for Fabrizio, please drop it in the comments as soon as possible before we get to this Europa League draw. Fabrizio, I want to ask about Manchester United, but before I do, there was news breaking from Crystal Palace this morning. Patrick Vieira has been relieved of his duties or stepped away from the position. What next for Crystal Palace? And I guess I should ask you, what next for Patrick Vieira? Because he has been around. He's spent some time in Major League Soccer. He spent some time in France. He's now spent some time in the Premier League. He certainly is a household name for a lot of clubs out there who I would imagine would want to have a great person like Patrick Vieira in charge of their football club. So what does the future look like on both ends for Palace and for Patrick?
Yes, for Palace, it's now time to decide. This afternoon, they will meet, told internally to discuss about potential options, to meet with managers and decide as soon as possible who is the right man to become the new coach. So there will be the meeting today afternoon. It's going to be important to understand how Palace will proceed, if they want an experienced manager or if they want to keep going with that kind of manager, young manager with fresh ideas. So they will decide probably in the next 24, 48 hours. And it's also important to mention that Patrick Vieira is really appreciated into the industry. I'm with you 100%. He's really appreciated by directors, by players. He's really appreciated because he's always been respectful with the players. The players love him. This is something really important. And this is why it was not easy for Crystal Palace to decide like that. Also, the statement today was we didn't want to proceed with that kind of decision, but because of the results, we needed something different. But I'm sure that Patrick Vieira will be back very soon, probably in the summer, because in France he's appreciated. In England, he has obviously a very big reputation. Also in Italy, where he played, of course, with Inter, Milan, and Juventus. I'm sure that Patrick Vieira has many clubs appreciating him, and so I think in the summer it will be time for him to.
Did you say Inter there, Fabrizio? Did you say Inter right there?
Yes, of course.
Ooh, Inzaghi.
No. But I don't think they are looking for that kind of coach, honestly. But never say never.
Not yet, Fabrizio, not yet.
Yeah, I'm a little bit salty, Fab, that Palace sacked Patrick Vieira on St. Paddy's Day, and that quote coming from our producer Des Norris, up the Irish and up the Paddies everywhere. Moving further north in the Premier League, Manchester United, Fab, every time you're on the show, I have to ask you, what is the latest with the ownership or the takeover deal? Please tell me it's happening.
Yeah, these are crucial hours, because yesterday the Qatari delegation was in Manchester, not with Sheikh Al Thani, but his delegation in Manchester to talk to Manchester United and to discuss about this potential takeover. Same today for the Ineos group with Sir Jim Ratcliffe in person at Old Trafford and Carrington in the afternoon to open talks and discuss about this big movement for Manchester United. It's important to mention that the Glazers want around 6 to 7 billion pounds to sell Manchester United. So the negotiation is still at early stages, but the meetings are taking place. What I can say is that on Qatari side, they are really confident. They feel that their bid is the best one. They feel that they can make it, also investing a lot on the facilities, training ground, the stadium, and of course, the team. They want to trust the academy. So they're preparing something really big, and they feel that they are favorites to buy Manchester United. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe is now in Manchester, so he's still 100% into the race. He wants to do something important for the club too. So I think it's pretty clear that now this is the race. Ineos group, Qatari group, and it will be decided in the next weeks, months. But I think the positive news for Manchester United is that things are happening now, so ahead of the summer transfer window. It could help the club to have a clear strategy in the summer, a new owner ahead of the summer, and so to complete the squad. They already did a very good job, I think, with Erik ten Hag in the last 8-9 months, but next summer is going to be crucial. The manager and people close to him feel that next summer is a crucial one for Man United to add maybe 2-3 more players in the correct positions and bring Manchester United to the top of Premier League.
Fab, just to stay on the Manchester United theme then, what would you say from your knowledge is the one position that Manchester United would desperately want this summer? What's the number one target for Manchester United player-wise?
Traditional center striker. This is what they want. This is something they already wanted last summer. Then they decided to wait because that kind of player was not available in the summer. So they decided to sign Vegas on a loan deal in January. But the expectation is for Man United to go for that kind of player, traditional number 9, in the summer. So to play with Rashford on the left, with Anthony or any other player like Sancho, Garnacho, and the others they have on the other side, and then a center striker, a traditional number 9. I expect them also to explore the midfielders market because it's something that they wanted to do also last summer, and they signed Casemiro, but I think they can add one more player in that position. And then I think the real priority has to be Marcus Rashford contract. He's out of contract in summer 24, 1 year left on his contract. They can't wait too much because he's literally on fire. All the top clubs are watching the situation. And so Man United have to be fast. And I think this is going to be a crucial one in the next months.
We got a question, Fab, from one of our loyal listeners, Rafa Cardenas. He says, Fabrizio, what's going to happen with Cancelo at the end of the season? Any chance of Bayern Munich spending big money on him? That's a great question there because normally Bayern Munich, as we all know, they don't spend a ton of money on players. They do have a very strong roster as it is right now, but this is an intriguing situation because Cancelo's been good for them and is a good addition. But what about his future? Where does it lie?
Honestly, it's just opinion because at the moment, decision has not been made on Bayern side and also on Cancelo side. They just want to enjoy these months. Now with this Man City Bayern game is going to be special for the player and then they will decide at the end of the season. But from what I feel, speaking to some sources, I don't see Bayern triggering the 70 million euros buy option for João Cancelo. I think he will go back to Manchester City. And Bayern have to decide if they want to negotiate for a lower fee, maybe 30, 35, 40 million euros. Or if they will say, okay, it's fine, we have our players, and they will go with different fullbacks. And in that case, keep an eye on La Liga clubs for João Cancelo, because it was already discussed with Real Madrid in January, but they decided to stay with the same squad, not to sign any player in the January transfer window. And then we know the connection between Juan Laporta, Barcelona president, and Jorge Mendes, the agent of João Cancelo. Special relationship. There was a meeting in Porto a few days ago to discuss also about João Cancelo. In January, it was not possible because of the financial fair play, but if Cancelo goes back to Man City, it's one to watch for Barcelona too.
Fab, very quickly, one of the teams I'm very high on is Benfica. All of us are. What's the latest with Gonzalo Ramos? Because this guy has been a star in the Champions League and a rising star for Portugal.
Top player, I agree with you. And this is why Benfica are very happy with the release clause they included into the contract, because 1 year ago it was like a crazy clause. The value of the player was around 35, 40 millions. But now the release clause, which is the same one of Enzo Fernandez, so 120 million euros in one solution. At the moment, Benfica have no intention to negotiate with any club. They say there is a clause, and so if some club wants Gonzalo Ramos, they have to come here, convince the player, and pay the clause. This is the position of Benfica. Let's see if it will change in the summer, but this is what they state in this moment. I can tell you that last summer Newcastle approached the player. Also, Paris Saint-Germain were thinking of him before bringing in Ekitike. But at the moment, I would say he's one to watch for Premier League clubs too, because there are many Premier League clubs keeping an eye on him. For example, Manchester United scouts have been following this player for a really long time. And there are also other clubs around Europe monitoring him. But again, Benfica are very happy with the contract situation with the release clause of 120 million euros. So it's going to be complicated to sign Gonzalo Ramos, I think.
All right, golf clap from the House of Champions boys for Fabrizio Romano for joining us this morning. Bring in the fire as always. Fabrizio, we appreciate you. Make sure everybody out there go follow Fabrizio on all of his social media platforms. The guy never stops working. I thought I worked hard. Nigel certainly doesn't work hard, but Fabrizio, you're working harder than all
Nigel
of us.
was working under the pitch. I remember very well.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Thank you.
All right.
So what you're saying now is he's enjoying retirement right now in the perfect way. Thanks, Fabrizio. Appreciate you, Fabrizio. We're going to let you go. Everybody else stick around. We got more to come, plus the Europa League draw. We're going to be watching along, and the House of Champions boys will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome to the UEFA Europa League on Paramount Plus.
What a night!
Your home for more ultra-competitive, world-class soccer, where Europe's elite and soccer's Cinderellas pump out that one-of-a-kind white-knuckle excitement that grows with every cut, every cross, and each and every... The UEFA Europa League. Stream every match live exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Well, don't miss a second of the action from the greatest club competition on earth. That is, of course, the Champions League. Follow the biggest stars from the world of soccer like Sadio Mane, Karim Benzema, Victor Osimhen, and Erling Haaland as they try to clinch the most prestigious prize in the game. Stream every single match from the Champions League and Europa League live on Paramount Plus and try 1 month for free using the promo code ADVANCE. Welcome back to the House of Champions. Enjoy, alongside my co-host Michael Hood and Nigel Rio Coker. That was pretty interesting, Mike, from Fabrizio. There are a lot to talk about there. I'm intrigued about the Napoli situation because he talked about Kvara quite interestingly that, you know, there has to be demand real quickly from him around the world. But I find it difficult to think that all the top teams wouldn't want to sign him.
This is a Napoli side that we've heard a lot about. Spalletti really wanting to keep this team together. It was unfinished business. There's still a trophy left on the table. Serie A, they have one hand on it, given what they've done so far. They have a great chance to win the UEFA Champions League, especially with this favorable tie. I could see potentially him staying, but as we know, when clubs want a player of the caliber of Kvara, they will go after him. Nigel, you have said Real Madrid. We have said any club in the world would take him. He would fit in just about anywhere. I think most likely he ends up leaving, but that's a summer transfer window for you.
He's a difference maker, Ian. He's a difference maker. I understand there's some players there, but in the modern game of football, you need a squad. You need depth. For me, I could still see all top clubs. Maybe they might not be putting it out there in the public domain, but there's definite conversations about him. He is a big difference maker, and it's either you go now while you can get him for cheap, or you can, if you wait and delay, you're gonna have to pay 2 times, 3 times the money. But I can see all the clubs taking him. I'm sorry, I can see that.
After that goal at the weekend, I'd have dropped a cool 150 on him easily. I'd have been
well, you can
signing him up
though.
there.
That's what I'm saying. You're telling me
Todd
the likes
Foley
of like,
licking his lips.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's what I'm saying. You can't see Chelsea. You're telling me you can't work at Manchester United?
We have
He'll go
too
to
many
Man United and be a starter. He'll be a starter
absolutely.
at Manchester United because he's a difference maker.
But
you look at, go on.
Question for you though: Marcus Rashford having success on that left-hand side. Do you move him?
It's still
for
Manchester.
Kvara?
You need a
I
squad.
say no.
Man United don't have a squad. They don't have a squad.
I have the perfect place for him. I have the perfect place for him. I'm going to interrupt you both. Manchester City. I'm just going to throw it out there right now. Manchester City. Move Grealish. You put him in there on that left-hand side, in my personal opinion. Foden obviously can play on both sides, so there's no problem there. And I would then say that Mahrez days would probably be done at Manchester City. We great comment right quickly here from Vicky says, Dr. Nigel is also a millionaire, so enjoy your retirement, bro. Speaking of millionaires, let's invite back into the House of Champions James Bench. Golf clap for James Bench, everybody. There he is.
Anyone that owns property in London is a millionaire, I believe. I had to get back in. I've been chomping at the bit because I've just heard some utter nonsense from Mike.
Oh boy, here we go.
Get after him. Get after him, James.
The idea that Marcus Rashford, great form that he's in, would keep Kvaratskhelia out of a Man United team, I mean, you should be so lucky, I have to say. It's not so, I mean, of course, like both of them start. Have you seen the rest of that Man United front line? Do you think he might get in over Weghorst, the cart mule that is Manchester United's number 10, or Anthony? I mean, what you could do is you could always try and graft Kvaratskelia's right foot onto Anthony's left. Because, I mean, whatever Anthony's doing with his right foot at the moment, I haven't seen any evidence.
Bench.
It's good to be back, Mike.
Oh, I know. You're taking me to the woodshed in the chat, but you're not going to take me in the woodshed on the pod. That's where it ends here. Marcus Rashford, majority of his goals coming from the left-hand side. This is a player who's playing the football of his career on that side. I'm not saying that Kvara couldn't get.
It's gonna stop quite soon.
I hope it does not stop. I hope it keeps coming, and I hope it comes at the Emirates and all over London clubs next season and for the rest of this season. I just think that it would have longer lasting effects than just bringing in a quality player like Kvara. You are now restructuring everything. We saw what happened when Rashford did not start on the left-hand side, someone else playing there. Was it Kvara? No. Bruno playing there changes the whole outlook of Manchester United, and Rashford not as effective.
Michael,
when he went back there, he's more effective.
Michael, this is what I just have to say. Kvara is a difference maker. Rashford is on form right now. There's a big difference between having a difference maker in your team, a match winner, than a player that's having fantastic form.
Yes, but Nigel, he's proven in the Premier League, though. I guess that would be the question. Premier League fans out there.
I'm not saying that he has to go. I'm not saying he has to go to Manchester United. I personally, like I said, I think that all the top clubs in Europe. Yeah, good point, James. All the top clubs in Europe would take him. He's a difference maker. The way he plays the football, forget being able to beat a player, get crosses in. That is just his basic bread and butter that he can do with ease. But he's a difference maker that can be a match winner and playing with other better caliber players. I'm not saying that Napoli is not top caliber players, but imagine him in a Real Madrid playing for Real Madrid. Because right now you could say Valverde's form has dipped tremendously from what Valverde was doing at the start of the season to where he's at now.
Nigel, before we let you go, we found Michael Lahoud's burner account. It is apparently called Ed. It says, "What a downgrade from Fab." Oh, hi, James. Smiley face. Smiley face. Michael Lahoud. Michael Lahoud. How dare you
Let me press.
account?
Sorry, James. My thumb slipped on my phone. My bad.
We're getting set for the Europa League draw. It's about to take place. James Bench apparently sees it faster than everybody else around the world. So, James, as soon as the draw takes place, please let us know who they've all got.
My special channels into neon.
Nigel, before we let you go, just a quick update from you. Obviously, the Champions League has taken place. The draw has been awesome here. What are you looking to see maybe in this Europa League draw before we let you get out of here?
I'm just going to go off just watching that Sporting performance versus Arsenal. Like, Sporting have got me very excited. I mean, that again, it's just when you see teams with that kind of style of football, the approach, the mentality, the quality level, it's great to watch. And I'll be interested to see how they do. I would love to see, honestly, Manchester United Sporting. I think then we could see how far Man United really have come. I think that would be a great tie. For the storytelling tie, it would be Manchester United Roma, Jose Mourinho returning. And for me, that's what I'm kind of looking at. I don't agree with my mate Jonathan, who thinks Sevilla could be the dark horse to win it again, because it's not the same Sevilla side. Nowhere near. But I think the best footballing side that I have seen would be Sporting left in this competition.
Before we go, we haven't even mentioned the Conference League, which is disgraceful on our behalf. And I'm sure you'd include to it, Nigel. I mean, but West Ham, like, probably the favourites to win that, aren't they?
They are the favourites to win that. They are, but I don't think that they would want to go far in that competition with their Premier League domestic form being absolutely horrendous. I think that West Ham fans would rather stay in the Premier League than win this Conference League.
Such a nice trophy, though.
Yeah.
It is a nice trophy, actually. It is. All right, the draw is about to get set.
It'd be so West Ham to win the Conference League and get relegated. It's the most West Ham thing I can think of.
It is the most West Ham thing to happen. That would be the most West Ham thing to traditionally happen.
Nigel, thank you, mate. We're going to let you go because I know you're very busy. I appreciate you getting up very early this morning. I know you're up anyway with the kids, but we appreciate you joining us. The draw has just begun. James Bench, keep us afloat on anything who gets drawn. Nigel, enjoy yourself, mate.
Cheers, guys. See you later, mate.
See you, Nige.
Right, now he's gone.
United.
Let's talk about Nigel. Now he's gone. No, I'm only joking. Let's get into it. All right, James. So Manchester United drawn out of the hat first. I like it.
United.
Who do they want to avoid here, Mike? Who do they want to avoid?
I mean, Juventus and Roma, two Italian clubs. United, they want to play counterattacking. Both these clubs can absorb and counter press you and hit you on the counter again. I think Juventus is the big one.
Well, I tell you what, this is a tie rich in football heritage. To quote that man, Jose Mourinho, it is Manchester United against Sevilla.
Yeah.
Football heritage. That is what that is. I mean, that is a great draw if you're Man United.
Yes.
Thoughts about that, Mike?
Except for...
Yeah, I'm taking it back to a couple of years in this competition where United, I think under Ole, they were favorites to go and win it. And Sevilla surprised everyone, knocking United out of the tie. If United apply themselves like they did against Betis, this is a very vulnerable Sevilla side. Sampaoli has come in and done a bit of wonders in this competition, kind of helped stop the bleeding that was happening at the start of the season. But United, the form they're in this competition in particular, unbeaten in their last, 7-8 matches. I see United as the favorites.
Juventus against Sporting. Now that's
actually a tricky one.
That is a good tie. I make Sporting the slight favourites there. I thought they were.
Except, you've impressed me though, James. I thought they did well to get past Freiburg. Did well.
Sporting done quite well to beat both teams from North London.
Nah, that was an easy one that last time.
Well, I think they're really going to miss Agate. That will be a massive loss for them.
He was quality.
I mean, God knows.
James, real quickly before the tie does come through the next one, how about the goalkeeper from Sporting? My oh my, was he terrific? Yes.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, that was impressive. What was it like in person?
It's like. There were gasps. Those two late saves from Gabriel were remarkable.
Incredible.
Proper top performance defensively from that team. I mean, like briefly, I would say I don't think Arsenal won't mind going out. It's just the manner of how they went out with half their defence banjaxed and 120 minutes played by the likes of Martinelli. Not a great way to exit. Leverkusen against Union Saint-Gilloise. That is brilliant for Xabi Alonso, I have to say, as good as and that means final Roma.
I will say this though, James, I am worried about that one because Union Saint-Gilloise just knocked out Union Berlin, who are flying high in the Bundesliga. Leverkusen are very patchy right now in the Bundesliga. I've been super impressed with Saint-Gilloise with the way that they've been performing. That striker with a bald head, I forget his name. My, oh my, he loves a goal there. Mike, what's your thoughts on that one, Leverkusen, Union?
I think this could be an absolute shootout, given what we saw in the last round. We know Leverkusen, they don't quite have the most watertight back line. I know it didn't really show in their last matchup, but they've leaked tons of goals this season. But Leverkusen's slight favorites. If they show up with the right mentality, I still think it's going to be entertaining, though. I think there's goals to be had in this.
I mean, the talent that Leverkusen have is probably ahead of Union Berlin, isn't it? And you know better than me, Ian, but I guess that have Leverkusen kind of just said, well, nothing's going to happen out of this Bundesliga season, so all our eggs are in the Europa League basket. I wonder, is it just that? And we're getting the semi-final draws, and we've got Juventus or Sporting against.
Oh, don't say.
Drum roll. Sorry, this is really bad, isn't it? This is dead air. I hate that.
No, I like it. I like the delay. It's
United.
I knew it.
Juventus. So, which I guess means potentially Juventus, Man United, semi-finals, 1999 all over again.
Oh,
you love to see it.
Bring it on.
I mean, except Man United has a good team in 1999.
Here we go.
Thoughts, Mike? Thoughts on that?
It sets me up. I'm glad that United don't have Juve in the quarterfinals. Eventually, you got to play a team like Juventus. I want Mourinho in the final. I said it before when we were talking about hypotheticals. I want Jose in that final for that storybook matchup. That is going to be a tough one, but you got to get through your quarterfinal matchup first to earn the right to play a team like Juve. Di Maria, that is the other storyline. If United face Juve, it'll be the Di Maria revenge game. Di Maria already took his revenge out on Manchester United when he was at PSG. I hope it doesn't happen again.
James, just real quickly, go ahead.
The Mourinho Man United reunion is written in the stars. Although, actually, I kind of look at Roma and I think they might be the favourites to make the final.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think they'd be the favourites in the final. I mean, this is the joy of the Europa League, almost more than the Champions League. The balance is there, and it's never quite goes to script. I think this Champions League in particular is really sort of the best teams have won, and there's no problem with that. But the Europa League has this habit of doing quite mad stuff to you. And I mean, Feyenoord are a proper banana skin team, I would think. Someone like Orkun Kokcu, phenomenal in that midfield. So
watched their game yesterday, James. Feyenoord game yesterday, and they were 1-1 coming out of the first leg, and to score 7 on Shakhtar yesterday was incredibly impressive.
Wow.
For me, they're definitely a team you've got to be worried about if you are Roma. I mean, Roma fans will definitely be licking their lips, thinking we got a good draw here, and obviously potential fans craziness there as well when you've got Feyenoord and Roma fans going at it. I actually like this draw. This is 4 great matchups here. Man United Sevilla, as you mentioned there, James, great history. Obviously, 2 historic clubs, 2 traditional clubs that really get after it. United in good form, Sevilla not in good form, which obviously poses a concern as far as I'm concerned. And then you have Juventus against Sporting, which is a tasty affair. I mean, Juve right now are not the Juve that we all know and used to really love, enjoy watching play football. It's a different Juve now, frustrated players, obviously issues off the field. We don't know what's going to happen with them domestically with the 15-point deduction. So they might need to knock out Sporting Lisbon to have any chance of playing in European competition next year. So who got the best of the draw here, James? Who got the best and who got the worst?
I have my soft spot for a certain German team and a certain young playmaker in that German team. And I know they're called Leverkusen for a reason. But I do look at a Leverkusen team that I think are improving, that Florian Wirtz is going to take that next step onwards. That the defence, as Mike rightly noticed, is not great, but the attack can make up for a multitude of sins. I think they'll be the happiest because they're probably the only team that are strong. Well, maybe United as well. They're strong favourites in their quarterfinal draw. So I think this is good for Leverkusen, and they can see some good teams knocking each other out. So they're the ones who've gone up there the most in my estimations. I still think Man United are going to win this. My sneaking little winding Mike Lahoud and Ian Joy up point is they may well find, I mean, they'll probably still finish top 4, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they might actually need to win this to get into the Champions League. But yeah, I think a good draw for Leverkusen, but Man United are still favourites.
Yeah, I agree with you, James. I think those 2 names you named, they will be breathing a sigh of relief that they didn't get the 2 Italian sides in the quarterfinals. But when you get to the semifinals, if both Roma and Juve get in, Italian teams just have that savviness when it comes to cup competition in a semifinal that they frustrate you. They can play in different ways. It'll be a set piece. It'll be an own goal. It'll be they don't care how they get the goal. 1-0 will do them just fine. And I kind of worry about that as a United fan. And I think a Leverkusen side, they want it to be a shootout. They want it to be open. You've seen what they've done, their track record in this competition this year. When it's a close game, when it's nitty gritty, I think they struggle in that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, just a quick reminder of the Europa League. Manchester United, Sevilla, Juventus, Sporting Lisbon, Bayer Leverkusen, Union Saint-Gilloise. Then you have Feyenoord against Roma. But earlier today, it was the Champions League draw. Just want to remind everybody out there, and let's just have a quick discussion before we let you boys both go here. It is Real Madrid against Chelsea, Inter against Benfica, Manchester City against Bayern Munich, and AC Milan against Napoli. Napoli would face then Benfica and Inter in the bracket. City and Bayern would face either Real Madrid or Chelsea. So, James, your overall thoughts before we get out of here? I mean, this is a great draw. A lot to look forward to from both competitions.
I hate talking about things like destiny, fate, luck, all those things, because I think it's nonsense most of the time. I think it kind of leads to these really lazy. It's very easy to sort of look and go, oh, this was always meant to be this way. And it means we don't talk about things sensibly. Having said all of that, don't you just look at that and think there is something like written in the stars about this Napoli team, that everything has broken their way, that they've done so magnificently, pretty much winning Serie A already. It'll be done and dusted by the international break, but it's a good enough league that they'll get their competitive minutes. And given what happened when this season took that break, and Argentina won the World Cup for Diego Maradona, it does feel like there is almost something written about this year, and that after everything that's happened over the last few years with Maradona, does it not feel like it would be fitting if this Napoli team didn't just get their first Scudetto since Maradona's departure, but if they then went and won the European Cup for him? And I know that's a long way off, but look, this is the moment, isn't it, when we cast our eyes forward to Istanbul. And I've gone out and sketched it in my head, and I have Man City against Napoli. And then I think there's something about destiny and the moment that I just feel like it's going to be Napoli's year. It's very weird because normally the dark horses, or the surprise teams, you can't quite see them coming at this stage, but it feels like something is happening in Naples.
You're not the only one here. The bookies have just dropped Napoli. They were at plus 600. They now dropped to plus 350 to win the Champions League. Just an update from the latest on the bookies odds here. Manchester City plus 225 to win it. Bayern Munich plus 300. Napoli are then third favourites to win it, plus 350. Real Madrid plus 650. Inter Milan plus 1400. Benfica plus 1400. Chelsea plus 1400. And Milan bottom at plus 1800. Mike?
I'm kind of excited just to see some fresh faces. I know there's such an English and Spanish dominance, and rightfully so, given the quality of players you've seen in those two leagues over the last decade. But now the sands are really sifting and shifting. This could be the Champions League year where we see the next generation take over. Look at the teams we're talking about. Gonzalo Ramos with Benfica, Rafael Leao with Milan, Osimhen, Cavada. I'm so excited, and there's a part of me that's rooting for that right side of the bracket to go and take the title, but the experience factor of the teams on the left, between Madrid, between Chelsea, between Bayern, you have former Champions League holders. City, not so much, but Pep Guardiola does have experience. I think ultimately that might make a bigger difference once you get to the final against a team like a Napoli or any of the teams on the right.
Well, just a reminder to everybody out there, the quarterfinals are set in the Champions League. It's Real Madrid, Chelsea, Inter, Benfica, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, Milan against Napoli. You can have all of your coverage brought to you by CBS Sports across our House of Champions. We'll also have the Golazo network starting before these quarterfinals take place. And of course, James Benj will be writing all about it. James, where can people follow your great work across social media and also on the website?
Yeah, cbssports.com. I've just filed my power rankings. Hint, we've got Napoli top of them and Chelsea very far away at the bottom. And there's going to be a lot to do. And yeah, a little Premier League title race to think about as well. So it's going to be a busy time. Looking forward to a week off next week.
Nice. Me too. I am very much looking forward to a week off. Or many people would not call it a week off because I got a game coming up, James. You know, the open invitation's there for you, James, by the way. Mike, you're a bit far away from making that trip, but I'm making an appearance in Hamburg, Germany. I'm playing a testimonial game for FC St. Pauli. One of my former teammates, Jan-Philip Kalla, he retired during COVID. So this is the first opportunity we've had to get back out on the glorious pitch that is called the Milan Tour. You know, we should have about 10,000 fans turn up for the game.
I need to see how big the drop-off's been.
Oh. Hey, listen, they've been asking me how long do you think you're good for? I said, I'm good for a good 14, 15 minutes. That'll be me.
Did you ever see the clip of, if I'm libeling Ray Parlour here, I'm sorry. But I think it was Ray Parlour in an Arsenal testimonial or an Arsenal charity game a few years ago. Came on, did his hamstring within 3 minutes straight off.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Never ever do that. I know they're for phenomenal course, so it's great that you are. But I feel like there's only embarrassment awaits one player in those testimonial games.
Yeah, Mike, go on. You comment before I add.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, hey, congratulations on the call up. This is something, former players, this is kind of your reward for the time you spent in. And just for our viewers and for us, is there any way to be able to tune in? Is there a stream or anything we can catch?
There's many people been asking actually about the stream. I don't know, because normally testimonial games, you want people to turn up rather than sit at home and watch the game, because obviously the proceedings then go to the player and his family. So I'm really hoping that that's okay. And James, to update you, I've been training for 8 weeks to try and get myself ready for this.
Yeah.
After about 4 weeks, I picked up a stiff neck and back, therefore also picked up vertigo. So for the past 4 weeks, I've been really struggling, and the hamstrings are getting tighter the closer I get to this game. But now, listen, I want to wish everybody obviously a great weekend. James, where are you going this weekend?
Obviously, I'm going to the Emirates.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, big game, though. Big game now.
Massive game. Well, but big game for Palace as well. I have no idea why they've just sacked Patrick Vieira. It's daft.
Especially at this time right now, ahead of that game. Why would you do it ahead of that game?
I mean, by God, as well, if you want to like rile up the Arsenal supporters, I mean, we were sort of talking to people on the way out last night, and they were going, God, it would be absolutely rubbish if our Arsenal, well, you know, the Arsenal fans were saying if Arsenal cost Vieira his job. But by God, now you've just unleashed the fury of these Arsenal supporters who are going to make Palace pay for sacking Patrick Vieira. I just wonder if any of the players are going to be fit enough to actually make it happen on the pitch.
Michael Hood, you got anything MLS related?
Yes, Austin FC on the road this weekend. Big matchup for them against Houston Dynamo FC. First Texas derby, but I'm going straight to my local. Starting here, I've got 2 locals, one in Austin and my second local in San Antonio. Just going to go kind of shut the brain off a bit, enjoy the Champions League tie, Europa League tie, and watch some footy starting today, Friday Night Football.
Dude, that's a hell of a trek between your locals. One in Austin, one in San Antonio. How long is the journey between your 2 locals?
It's an hour 15, you know.
Go to local.
It's Texas. That's close
That's
to Texas.
across my country.
That's close. Mate, come to Texas, James. You will see that is like going around the block and back. It is Texas.
Yes, that is correct. Our Michael does have a truck and a cowboy hat before he goes in between his locals. But thanks, boys. I appreciate it. Just an update to everybody out there. The Champions League quarterfinals draw is set. Real Madrid, Chelsea, Inter against Benfica, Manchester City, Bayern, Milan against Napoli. The Europa League draw is also set. It is Manchester United against Sevilla, Juventus, Sporting Lisbon, Bayer Leverkusen, and Florian Wirtz. Yes, James Bench has a man crush on him. Union Saint-Gilloise will be their opponent. And then, of course, Feyenoord against Roma. Thanks for all the great work to our talent out there. Nigel Rio Coker, Fabrizio Romano, Jonathan Johnson, Michael Hood, and James Benj. What a great team we have here at House of Champions. And don't forget, we will have you covered all across the Champions League, the Europa League, the Conference League at CBS Sports. House of Champions will be right there. We also have the Golazo Network starting on April 11th, and you will be covered. So don't have to leave your seat. Sit and enjoy all the action. But before then, have a great weekend. Enjoy the international break. That includes you, James Bench. Make sure you switch off for a minute and enjoy some time off. I will be in Hamburg enjoying, probably pulling my hamstring. But I want to thank everybody out there for listening to House of Champions. Take a minute to leave us a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere else you listen to your podcast. Also available as videos, so subscribe to us on YouTube. We will see you once again next week, everybody. Thanks. Enjoy the weekend.